The Richter scale of fear.
The married men with whom I associate function at different levels of fear. The causes of fear vary: wives, potential unfaithfulness by their mate, loss of family, of becoming independent, of making changes in their lives, of taking responsibility, of intimacy. One of them proposed ranking them on a scale of fear. Accordingly, I devised the Richter scale of fear. Here are the rankings. Level 10. A man who is very afraid. The word fear appears at least twice in every sentence. His attachment to his wife is pathological. All the sex-drenched novels he writes with detailed descriptions of lingering, enduring sexual experiences are utterly imaginary, fueled solely by his ravenous hunger. In actuality, he has had no sex at home in a very long time. Viagra brings him no succor. His high-handed wife is in full control of his life. He feels obligated to take care of her, as if such were decreed from up high. He does not dare to talk on his cell phone, for he is under constant surveillance. His life is a dunghill of acute anxieties in which he is deeply buried. He is obviously in need of prolonged psychiatric treatment. He would not leave his home, even for an initial meeting with me. On a rare occasion, he furtively emerges for a minute communication on Messenger. He transmits pining love poems through ICQ. Level 9. Also a very scared man. Fear is a word that appears once, maybe twice, in a given electronic dialogue. He is a man with a burning thirst for change, for affection, for titillation, even though he lauds the wealth of it at home. But there is something very personal at work here. When it comes to effecting changes, in practice, things get rather complicated. He claims that he can only function from the emotional dimension of his personality, and, therefore, will never get entangled romantically at his working environment. To prevent his own unfaithfulness, he had tattooed his wife's name on his arm, entwined with a heart. When he's unable to withstand the many temptations that assail him, he goes for a furtive quickie, or, while on his way, he flinches, retreating home with a bouquet of wildflowers picked from his seducer's front yard, a cleanser for the ambience and his tortured conscience. He specializes in unleashing arrows at women he finds attractive, and, subsequently, excuses his conduct by claiming he is a sick pervert. When his ugly face is exposed, he buries his head between his shoulders, then runs to and hides under his wife's skirts, whom he loves so much. His identity must remain undisclosed, it must. He simply cannot understand angry women who gossip. Level 8. He thinks he's not afraid, but in fact he's paralyzed by fear. He does not take responsibility for the choice he made in life, for his wife. He is, evidently, stolen property. He never formed the desire to marry her in the first place. She is a dominant, practical woman, well-shaped goods, who has been in charge from the very start, retaining full control, micro-planning his life. In order to survive and to function sexually, he must be unfaithful. This is an existential necessity. His only gateway to fornication is through his workplace. He specializes in lingering intercourse with, and in going down on, a sundry collection of horny women, most commonly in parking lots, stores, and cars. They say he is the best in the whole world, that they never had anyone like him. He comes home with a smile, only to immediately commence mopping the floors and cooking. Most of his affairs last just a few months, until the women get so pissed off at his wife, of whom he constantly complains, they get an irresistible urge to strangle her. He talks about the separation, forthcoming in just a few years. However, he jealously guards the current framework of his existence. He actually wants nothing to change in his life. But one day in the future, when he becomes single once more, and then he'll never, ever marry again, he will fulfill all my urges, we will make a child together, we'll even live together, happily ever after. Hallelujah. Level 7. Tightly shut bunker. He is not afraid, he is paralyzed by terror. He investigates how women might be ready to take him in to accomplish his mission. He must find out their propensity for fucking, and with whom. Do they sleep naked, or with pajamas? After he finds out all the gritty details, he declares that the women are not discreet, since they tell all. Although the women do not identify their lovers by name, he digs deep, and finds out who they love, and, correspondingly, acquire the insight that he has no place in their hearts. So now he endeavors to blacken the reputation of the treacherous lover, disclosing that the latter is in a parallel relationship with another. He expects that, by now, the woman would abandon her unworthy lover, replacing him with this gentleman, who did not reveal his own weaknesses. In reality, it is utterly unclear what the hell he really wants. He has a wonderful wife, and who says he is unfaithful? Nonetheless, it seems to me that he would not object to casual sex, a fleeting affair, or an evening at the nearby pub. It is also compartmentalized. He detests my book, and demands a commitment not to mention him in it any which way. Level 6. Afraid to be alone. He moves between his lawfully wedded wife and some other woman, a dynamic that forms a framework within which he functions, cooking, laundry, and cleaning. Gradually, that is, quite rapidly, he had become totally dependent on her. He has the skill for initiating a good fight. Predictably, she departs for her parental abode. He then starts to run messenger in order to effect cybersex, or just to show his penis to curious women. After he calms down, he fetches her from her parents' place, telling her that he misses her. Then he asks her to bring him a piece of cake, because he's hungry. Once, she did catch him chatting on the net, and, in a jealous rage, had smashed the monitor, and, yes, the camera, too. Since, he's been careful. He'd love to be normal, but he has a craving for the bizarre. Fantasies rule his life. He has a loving woman, but he's dreaming about me. Fear reigns here. Level 5. Macho, never scared. He is a charming man, his voice replete with confidence. He initiates courtship, and his kisses are nothing short of fantastic. He leaves messages. Girl, where are you? But when I respond to his SMS, he finds me irksome. You are a troublemaker, he says. Let's become discreet, the walls have ears. After all the courting, he leaves crumbs, and wants to know if I am his downtrodden slave, for he will never divorce, and will forever deny our relationship. He is not such a great lover, and knows what he might lose if his wife gets attached to another. I do not want anything, do not promise anything, do not owe you anything, I really am nothing. Level 4. Naughty under restraints. Outwardly, He has forgotten all about fornicating and unfaithfulness. His wife thinks he's calmly retired. He babysits his grandchildren twice a week. Little does she know, once a week, he travels to an unknown destination. What he does there is never a subject of any discussion. He pays in cash, leaving no footprints in the sand. Once a year, he and his wife take a major trip, on which occasion he buys me not an inexpensive item, right behind her back. He has to hide the gift throughout the journey. Not a coward, just doesn't like to make a mess. Level 3, too rigid. He is a social luminary, high-minded Renaissance man. He is a romantic who, occasionally, has to shake himself loose of his highly accomplished, well-educated wife. After all these years, he does not let his foreign affairs disrupt his domestic harmony and sex life. He is always very busy, and me, not an object of much of his attention. I have found it really annoying. A rigidly compartmentalized, fearful man. Level 2, brave on the outside. Away from home, he is a fearless lion. The word fear does not appear in his lexicon. He is not afraid of commitment. He is generous and sensitive. Not so skillful in the art of caressing and love-making, although for quite some time he has been grazing far afield while actively charming desperate married women. He is in possession of a huge heart. His spirit is steadfast. His stature at home, however, remains a mystery. Time will tell whether he is just as brave there, or the mountain turns into a molehill. Level 1 remains vacant, for now.